I'm super excited. Tonight's headliner is not just a tennis legend who was #1 in the world for 170 weeks and won 7 Grand Slams or major tournaments. I just want you to know he doesn't want to join your pickleball league, right? So that question's not on the table. But he also started a rock band. So he's not just like a legend in tennis and has had an incredible career. He's also a rock star. So, no big deal.
Right, we just not casually like, hey, you're a rock star. No, he's actually going to be playing later tonight with the Johnny Smythe Band. So very exciting. And he's going to be interviewed. John McEnroe is who we're talking about, if you didn't figure that out. And he is going to be interviewed by Ted Robinson, they have been covering sports, covering sports for 25 years together, an incredible partnership covering the US Open, covering Wimbledon, covering Roland Garros. And we are so excited to welcome them both to the stage for a conversation about sports, about leadership, and even about the tennis academy that John McEnroe founded.
But
so we
not
welcome
pickleball.
them. But not pickleball.
No.
Please welcome John McEnroe and Ted Robinson.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy that Bridget and Adam took over that responsibility of introducing you, John. I've tried that for, almost 30 years. I can't keep track of everything. You have so many labels, so many things you've accomplished.
I have?
Yeah. Philanthropist, by the way, I saw when I was walking in tonight. I think that's great.
Well, I've been pretty lucky, as it turned out, in my tennis career. I grew up in New York City. Wasn't a lot of... any New Yorkers? Yeah, all right. Well, don't forget to clap when we play, even if it's bad, okay? But I was fortunate that I fell into a lot of things. I don't know if anyone ever read the book Outliers, but that's sort of what happened to me in tennis. And so I ran into some really fortunate situations with some great people that taught me well. So my goal to the end, my last breath, is to try to get a US Open champion coming out of this New York City. Give kids a chance. Unfortunately, most kids can't afford to play tennis. Thank you, okay. It would be nice if someone won something, like an American male. So we got a ways to go, but we're getting closer, and that's the goal. So I have a tennis academy the last, I think it's been 15 years now, incredibly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, among other things. But, I always believed in trying to do some things even if they didn't work out. It's better to try and fail than not try at all. And I think you need that attitude in tennis, because even the greatest of the greats lose a few matches a year. Federer, Nadal, Djokovic just lost again. So he's human. And so you realize that, especially when you get out of tennis, it turned out that the more things I tried outside of tennis, the more I realized I wanted to be part of tennis. So it actually worked out. It sort of pushed me back into the sport that I love.
That's awesome. What did tennis teach you?
How to get angry. Very frustrating game. But it's sort of a life lesson on the tennis court. You're out there on yourself. You've got to figure things out on your own. I'm against the idea of coaching now. I think it's too bad, because it's the one sport where you sort of really had to do it on your own. And there's a lot of, learning from losses, learning from your mistakes, thinking of having multiple game plans, these type of things that you need in life has, worked well for me on a tennis court, but also off the court. So, those are some of the things. I'm a competitive person, so you get out. Well, I got out a lot of frustrations out on, a lot of people, including myself. But it was, and it's difficult at times, to be out there I love being part of a team. I played Davis Cup. I love to represent my country and do those type of things. But tennis is, ultimately an individual sport. So you've got to be able to sort of take the good with the bad, because if you don't, you're going to have a short career. So I think that's sort of taught me, even though it doesn't look like I'm that patient, I understand what you're thinking. But I do have 6 kids, and that's taught me some patience. One of my daughters is going to come sing with me tonight, which is great. Yeah, she can sing, so that's the difference, one of the differences. So it's nice to have some singers around. But so certain, I felt like there was a void in my life even when I was the best player in the world. And I think, having a family and kids really helped me quite a bit also. And so actually the combination was the best possible combination for me. It sort of humbled me a little bit, but made me a better person in the end, even if I was a lousier tennis player. But it wasn't my kids' fault. I just want to say that for the record. It was my fault.
6 kids, 2 grandkids. You can tell he's grandfather, can't you? Grandpa.
You can tell by my white hair.
What is your grandpa name, by the way?
What is
Do
what?
you have a grandpa name? Your grandkid?
You know, my oldest grandchild is just turned 2, so
okay. There's going to be one.
she doesn't like me yet, but I think she's going to learn to like me if she knows what's good for her.
Do you know, look, education is obviously the huge theme of this. And I've wondered because John, as I think many of you would know, came out of New York, went to a very good high school, went to Stanford, played a year. Yes, exactly. Went to Stanford, played a year, kicked everybody's butt. So by that point, it was ready to go pro. So you had formal education, but then you had the real world education at what, 19 years old? Going out,
Yeah.
competing.
I was
mean,
like,
it's interesting.
I was, who the hell are these tech guys at Stanford? What do they know in the 70s? Turns out they changed the world.
Yeah.
And so we just hope that, you know, the good part about sports is I think AI can't take our jobs. We have to go out there, right?
Have you heard, is there an AI Johnny Mac?
I've heard there's some type of AI, but they can't go out and play yet. If they can go out and play, I'd like them to actually take my place now because I can't move anymore. But it's sort of a crazy time, sort of an interesting time. So that was a great education for me. Not that I completed it by any means, but I want to say, might be someone here, I think I met one person, that I was the commencement speaker at Stanford 2 years ago. And I was the first Stanford dropout ever to be the commencement speaker. So that's pretty good. And I was the first athlete to ever be in the 120 years, I believe. So that was quite an honor in a way. So I didn't want to blow that. But I felt like Stanford allowed me to sort of be a kid for another year and sort of enjoy college, which I think more and more kids, I push that with my academy, how important it is for them to go to college, especially in my sport, because kids or players are lasting longer, playing later into their 30s in a lot of cases. Look at Novak and Roger and Rafa and others. Whereas when we made it to 30, we thought it was over. And for the most part, it was. But they know a lot more. So for me, that was a great preparation for the tour. I traveled the world when I first turned pro. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I'm going to countries all over the world, and I could argue that's a better education than, going to college in some ways. So I sort of had the perfect combination.
That's the real world education I was asking you
Right.
about. So John's written 2 books, and you can read some of this, so I'm not telling anything out of school. But I was refreshing myself to come here, and the one story that jumped out to me that I have heard from you before, but I'd forgotten, was at 20, you're probably 22 or 23, you go to see the Stones. And you wind up being buddies with Ronnie Wood and Keith Richards, and you end up sharing a little relaxant with Mick Jagger before they went on stage.
Well, it is legal
at 22.
now, right?
Who doesn't do that? Come on.
Who wouldn't do that? I mean, but the greatest perk that I've received as a tennis player and as an athlete, I think, is that when you are an athlete, you end up getting to meet other athletes that you look up to, the great athletes in other sports. You get to meet these actors that wish they were athletes, and musicians that wish they were athletes, and then athletes wish they were musicians, as you'll see in a little bit. Someone who wishes he was a musician. But at the end of the day, it's an incredible thing that I can sit here and be able to say that I smoked a joint with Mick Jagger. How many people can say that? That was before the show, by the way. I didn't have to perform, but he did pretty well. He's doing pretty well at 80. The guy's unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. So you're talking about tennis
So
players.
I can still do it. See, that's the good part.
Yeah.
I look at these idols of mine, they're like still out there kicking ass.
I know.
Why can't we do that in sports? Can someone come up with some AI things so that I can move my hips again? I mean, and run? It would be really helpful in my sport.
80, 70.
Otherwise, I heard someone say, otherwise I'll be stuck playing pickleball, that fucking game. Yeah. Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. That's when hell is frozen over, when becomes a big sport.
Isn't pickleball an excuse to get drunk? I thought that's what it was.
Well, it's an excuse. Listen, I don't want to totally dump on it because there are a lot of people out there that, could use a little exercise.
Yeah.
And it's a lot smaller court than a tennis court. It's annoying sound, admittedly, but it's something. But I'll tell you, the happiest people in the world, the doctors. The doctors are thrilled. Everyone gets hurt because they're out of shape to begin with, and then they push themselves, so they tear an Achilles. So these doctors are having a field day. So enjoy your pickleball, everybody.
Exactly. So on the plane here, I just jotted down the back of this index card, John McEnroe, tennis champion, commentator, art collector, television host, film actor, musician. And did you ever think that in this day and age, you would maybe be most known narrator? Netflix.
Yeah.
Never have I ever. You know what I'm talking about, I hope? The Netflix show? That John, how many seasons did it go?
4 seasons. Mindy Kaling is a great talent and writer, and she had this cockamamie idea that I'd be the narrator for this Indian American high school girl. I don't know how that connection took place, and then I said this, and I read some reviews before. They go, this is crazy. How could this possibly work? John McEnroe being, sort of a psychologist for this high school or an advisor, and then it came out, and then someone said, this is crazy, but it might work. And then 3 years later, 2 or 3 years later, I got a call from, this was, by the way, the day after my youngest daughter was rejected at Stanford Law School. The next day, they call me and say, do you want to be commencement speaker? Are you fucking kidding me? You at least could have gotten her. The hell with you. She's at NYU Law School. She's doing fine, okay? Where was I, Ted? Because I got a little upset.
I'm still blown away at your success as a narrator.
So the senior class presidents apparently have a pretty important say in who the commencement speaker is or who they want. So I talked to them individually a few months before, and all 4 of them, the reason that they picked me, because they heard me narrating Never Have I Ever. I go, I was the #1 player in the world, right? You were? So you never know, I guess. I mean, whatever gets you to the place you need to go, you do it. But I'm like, never have I ever is the reason I'm the commencement speaker? But it was a fun thing. Narration's tough, though. I'm not with everybody. I'm on my own. And I'm doing it in some sound stage, a studio, and no one's there, and you got to fit it in, and then you're like, God, I hope this is good. So it is sort of nice when it all fits together beautifully, and it works, because that's thanks to Mindy and her team.
I would second that. It's hard. I've tried a little bit of it in some other venues. It's a hard thing. Now, you're a guy, you've done scenes with Jack Nicholson, Sandler, Larry David. I mean, you've been in cameos in TV shows and films, and this narration, which is a tougher thing, man, that's what you hit on.
Jack Nicholson told me never to drop names, but I was with Neil Young yesterday, and
it's not your norm. That's okay.
What was your question again?
You had Andy Warhol try to do pictures of you once, right?
I did a charity thing, like an event where you're trying to raise money for a great cause. So I picked an Andy Warhol portrait, me and my ex-wife. It's safe to say that ain't hanging in my living room at this point. But I am promising it to my daughter, who you'll see later. I have 3 kids. I actually had 2 of them. I sold one to charity. Mm-hmm. All the money went to charity. But there was one, because I tried to get 3 to give one to each of the 3 kids I had with my first wife, and I couldn't get the third one. So I've got one left, and Emily, it's all yours.
Tell us about Warhol. I mean, Andy Warhol is a legendary name. Who gets a chance to meet him?
Warhol was a very strange man. He had a horrible wig.
Ooh.
Maybe one of the worst wigs in history. Only be topped by Elton John's. Who I love, by the way. He's one of the greatest ever, but that wig's a little weak. I'm sitting there with Andy Warhol. I'm like, this guy's one of the most famous guys in the world. We're at, late at night at some private party, and you're trying to, I don't know, I was a young kid. I'm trying to get lucky. And he's taking pictures and taking pictures. This is great. This is great. I'm like, why is this weird guy taking photos? Ted didn't get a chance to speak to him intimately very often, as you can imagine. We were sort of different personalities. But he turned out to be, in 50, I'm a big art lover and art collector. If he said in 50 years, name 2 artists, they probably named Picasso and Andy Warhol. So he did pretty well for himself. Unfortunately, he didn't believe in doctors, so he never went to a hospital. He was afraid to go to hospital. And then the one time he goes, he dies in the hospital. So I guess I can understand why he didn't want to go to the hospital. Not a good thing. They probably took his wig off and he fucking had a heart attack or something.
So the first time we met, John came in the broadcast booth, joined me, and you were still playing. You were in your final year of playing. So here we are 30 plus years later. All these things that I've checked off after Tennis Champ are things you did after you played. You may have started a couple of them, like the art collecting you started while you were playing.
Yes.
But I mean, you got to be proud of that. That's extraordinary for you post-playing, because you were finished in your early 30s, to have had not just lucrative, but as diverse a career as you've had.
I felt lucky that, in my mind at least, I had the guts in a way to try things that I wasn't sort of out of my element, out of my comfort zone. I thought that was important. Plus, I hated the fact that I was losing all the time in tennis. That didn't help. I wasn't winning the way I was winning, so it was like, oh my God. That saying, the older I get, the better I used to be. That was very true for me. So it was like, in a way, the last thing you want to be initially is around tennis. You want to get away from it. Fortunately, someone recommended commentating as an aside, in a way. And I remember you worked with him also, my great friend that I looked up to, Vitas Gerulaitis. And I said, if I'm ever to be a commentator, I'm going to be like him. Because, he had fun. He didn't take himself seriously, but he knew the game. And that's sort of the attitude I wanted to bring to it. So Vitas was a guy that, I got to say, because I still miss him. And he died a long time ago, 30 years ago at this point, almost 31. But he was the guy that brought me into the art world. He was the guy that, for better or for worse, got me into guitar playing. He was the guy that got me into commentating. He was the guy that took me to Studio 54. I mean, how many guys do you know that after you beat them in the finals of a major, my first major win at the US Open, I beat Vitas Gerulaitis in the finals. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do tonight to celebrate? And about an hour after the match, we'd finished press, and he goes, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, whatever he's doing is a whole lot better than what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go with him. And that's very rare that he had ability to sort of let it go. So I was a miserable guy to play on the court, but I at least hopefully was taught well by my parents and the people. Harry Hopmans of the world was a great captain, Vitas as well, to sort of, if you do lose, show some respect and try to move past it, because Lord knows we have pitfalls. Look at the stock market the last week. You talk about a roller coaster. So there's, tennis is sort of that way. You're looking at Novak right now, and you're like, what the hell's happening? All of a sudden, he's not winning. You're like, he's human. Unbelievable. And before, when he was winning 2 majors and was a match away from a slam, or won 3 of the 4, you're like, how the hell is he doing this? So it's, you have these incredible highs and lows in sports, unbelievable highs. And And I think the goal for everyone, no matter what you do, is to try to figure out a way to not let, to appreciate the highs more. And not let the lows, and always dwell on, the things you didn't do. So that's, ever since I had kids, if I wanted to send a message to them, it'd be like, why didn't I win the French Open? How did I blow that match at Wimbledon? I should have done this. I should have, taken this more seriously. So I try not to do that because you drive yourself crazy, and try to, hey, if you told me when I was 15 I would have done what I'd done, I would have said, I'll take it in a second.
Yeah. What is the high that you appreciate now? That's a great point you made. When you look back on your tennis career, what's the high that you appreciate?
That I put myself out there. I got my opponents so angry that they tried harder than ever. It was like, I was like, why do you put your foot in your mouth again? But I like the idea of people, going at 110%. Obviously, representing my country, there was no tennis in the Olympics in 1988, so to be part of a Davis Cup team, I had great people that pushed that very much when I was young, so my parents really wanted me to do that and get a college scholarship. You know how many people, Ted, in the last 20 years have asked me how many Davis Cup titles I've won? Zero. Not one. So it's sort of sad to see like a tremendous team event go by the wayside. That's part of why I got involved in this Laver Cup thing, because Rod Laver, that was like tennis's version. Is this James Blake coming from his house in San Diego to see me? That's so nice of him.
But the Laver Cup.
The Laver Cup was something that I thought was important for our sport. Maybe they're going to Camp Pendleton or something. I think that's pretty close by. I don't know. But I decided to be the captain along with my greatest rival, Bjorn Borg, so it seemed like a no-brainer. Rod Laver was my idol. I tried to copy his game, play like him. He was, to me, the greatest that ever lived, until these guys came along. And so somehow and I think anyone that's watched it could see it's a great event, but again, the sport of tennis seems to be, bent on destroying it. I don't understand it. So I've been at odds in a way with the sport for a long time. I'm like, we've got to do something where we really bring out the best in everybody, and we haven't been doing that recently. And a team thing is an example of something where it could be incredible. Yeah. So I did it for 7 years. I wish Andre Agassi the best, because he's obviously got a bit of a personality, so should be okay. And Yannick Noah is something else. So hopefully it will be something that will be important. But like it's sort of sad to see, doubles. I used to love doubles. Doubles? Name a doubles team. Anyone?
Yeah.
The Bryans quit 5 years ago, but and they single-handedly sort of kept it going for 10 years.
Yeah.
I got to give them credit. But name anybody, any team. I mean, it's really, so we got some work to do.
One of the...
Keep positive, John.
Yes. Because I'll do that for you right here, because I'm going to say that I get asked, you can imagine, in my world, I've been asked a million times, tell me about John. And I always say, the word that you don't know about John, and I lived it because the best moments that I had in my career, especially calling Wimbledon for 12 years, were because of John. John's support of me. And the word is loyal. And what you've heard tonight about John, loyal to Stanford, loyal to his friends, loyal to his country, representing your country, loyal to tennis. Loyal.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I was lucky, as it turned out, when I was younger, and I didn't quite appreciate the opportunity. I mean, I did in a way, but I wasn't showing it too well on the court. So it's been sort of my life's goal since, to sort of figure out a way to bring this sport to the place that I think it could be. When I was playing Bjorn and Jimmy Connors and Yvonne, we had the same ratings as basketball in the early years. I mean, if you had told me that golf would have double the ratings of tennis, I would have laughed at you. And now every week, every time you turn on the TV, there's a golf tournament. Where is the tennis tournaments? So it's been frustrating. And I think that hopefully people will pay more attention to what needs to be done, one of which is allowing as many kids as possible to play the game. You know, get kids to play not just football, not just basketball, try tennis, and you know, that's things I've been pushing. You know, get well-rounded, play other sports, go to college. Don't homeschool. All these kids homeschool. They don't around any human beings. You know, it's crazy now. It's like we're in the tennis pandemic again. Yeah.
Notice
questions from the audience.
I'm not.
Back there, can you hear us back there drinking? You can hear us. Wow. Oh, good. Well, then Then you're going to hear our band also, okay? They're trying to get as far away as possible.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago that at one point you were a young man trying to get lucky. And you got lucky about 30 years ago. You met Patty.
Yes, I did. You know,
I'll say Patty got lucky too.
Hopefully, but I was in a place, you know, I had 3 kids. It was any marriage, it's horrible when they end, and you know, getting a divorce, it's rough. It's not that funny, but I can laugh about it now, I suppose. But you know, I actually was like, oh, you know, I was in my 30s. I was like, look, I don't want this marriage thing again. And then I met Patty, who is, you know, obviously a great person, a great singer. I tried to get her to play in my band. As a matter of fact, when we first started dating, Ted, I said she was disenchanted with the music business. She just toured with Rod Stewart, and women, there only one woman used to be on the radio. Why can't you put 2 women? Only one woman's allowed. So she was frustrated with it. So I said, I got an idea. I'm really into this. Why don't we have a band together? And she looked at me, and then she said, yeah, why don't we play mixed doubles at Wimbledon? And I said to her, you don't even play tennis. And she said, exactly. So that sums it up, but I'm a lucky guy. At least I was smart enough to realize the opportunity I had. And so 30 years later, we're still together. 2 kids as well.
Amen.
Thank you.
And so that is why when the Johnny Smythe Band comes out, Patty won't be here.
Patty, unfortunately, will not be here tonight. But I do have my son-in-law playing with me, and I have one of my daughters playing with me as well. So we'll be out in about half hour, I believe, after this, because they've got important AI information they have to give to you. Because you haven't had enough of it the last 3 days. Just in case you may have forgotten something.
Well, I know you've all had 3 days of pretty good, intense, serious talk about great subjects, so we hope we allowed you to lighten up just a little bit, right?
Yes, and don't ask me about AI. It's way beyond me.
That's good. Good. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
a lot.
everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you for